I don't see any stream.
It's
There
getting
we
there.
go.
It needs to warm up. It really is a
Yeah,
tube.
it's like an old 286. You crank it out, walk away, get a cup of coffee, and come back. Hope it's up. So, to everyone out there in the cyberland, welcome to Puget Sound Pagan Pride and the Men's Green Tent. I am your host for this hour. I am Reverend Sir Chad Blackman. I am here with a lot of my good friends here. And this is a tent that was started about a year ago. Actually, the concept came a year before that, and because of COVID, it got put down. So last year, we started doing some Zoom meetings to talk about pagan men in this world and connecting spirit with physical and interacting that world so that we could be better men. We already know that from the earliest before even the Iron Age, we're talking 1200 BC, that our men were different from when the times of patriarchy, monarchy, and all came in. And pagan men, above all, in my honest belief, these views and opinions are solely mine, but I believe our men were a lot different then. I believe from the teachings I've had in the past that during the Iron Age, things changed a little bit, some for the better, some for the worse. But in this day of cancel culture, emasculating men and everything, we at the Green Trent try to get together and have a round table discussion, very much like King Arthur, as we see in the fables. We try to have a discussion on strengthening ourselves. Today, we're going to be especially discussing inner work. It's something every pagan, Wiccan, whatever does, we all fall under that pagan umbrella as far as I'm concerned. And we all know that whether you're clergy or not, you do inner work every single day. Now, some of us tend to fall by the wayside, and I am number one guilty of that. So I got a few guys here. Let's talk about this for a minute. When I say inner work, when I'm talking inner work, shadow work, whatever, what is your guys' view on that? Anybody? Please feel free. This is an open forum.
I'll go first. Um, shadow work is looking at your subconscious and learning how to talk to it. And from what I've learned, it has the mental acuity of a 3-year-old. So they don't really think, they don't talk, they don't do much of anything except feel and express emotions. So like any little kid, you have to learn how to relate to them to figure out what they need, what they want, so you could reconcile your conscious mind with your subconscious. And that involves facing your fears and what you truly want. And you have to admit that what manifests between reality is quite literally your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Anything you want or need is going to be colorized by the emotions you're feeling at that time. That thought hits reality and becomes a thing or an action.
Very good. Very good. That's a good viewpoint on it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Fluffy.
Mhm.
Thank you. And that's the very thing that men do not do today. We get told what to do, how to do, when to do. The thing is, with this, what we are trying to do is reach back and touch every one of you out there, men, women alike. We are created through the love and the ages of 1,000+ ancestors. Those ancestors never intended us to be toxic in any way. Yet we find a society today that's quite toxic. If we go back to the teachings of Aristotle and Plato and the Iron Age, during that very time of when the Roman Empire came in and were taken over, which is just a thing of men anyway, of the age of man anyway. We know that history repeats itself and continually does this thing over and over again. But what we don't realize is that we take those toxic traits with us to our very core, to our very spirit. We never think about the fact, we just think of this and this. We never think about spirit. The very thing that we are a spiritual being in a human flesh body. I think anyone would agree with that. And the fact that we carry so much of that trauma with us and that toxicity is what separates us from higher self, from spirit, and does not make us a complete being. I could have this very same speech with any group, and some may disagree, but the majority will agree. Inner work, as Fluffy said, is doing that. And sometimes, yes, it does come across, but there's also a time that I have found in years and years of doing this deep meditation. I connect with myself, I connect with deity, I connect with the ancestors. And what they tell me sometimes gets a little confusing, but over time, as you meditate on it more, it begins to come together. And that is the sole purpose of the men's green tent, is connect you back. We need men that are thinking and feeling and expressing themselves in ways that they don't do, because we are taught what? We are taught to suppress feelings. We're taught not to talk about it. You know, we address locker room talk as sexist talk. Truth being, very old age men used to get around a fire and talk about a lot of things. They educated the young people. I know because I was privy to that as being raised by my grandfather. It wasn't necessarily always an open roaring fire, but it was a pot-belly stove. If you ever fed a pot-belly stove wood, yeah, it's a workout. So let's look at the inner work. When we come across the things in society, everybody has encountered this mundane world. I understand that. But my point of view, and some of you can take this for what it's worth, you can be part of this mundane world. You have to be. You have to work in it. You have to interact with it. You don't have to be an active part of it. You can separate yourself and still be a part of it. You can work within the world and still separate yourself and be solid in who you are. I mean, I have seen some of my friends like Fluffy and them come leaps and bounds in the past couple of years with their walk. And it didn't take that much. It wasn't like it wasn't like they or I were some spiritual guru. But it was just simple talking. And that's something that men today do not do enough of. We do not get out there and talk to other men. We don't get out and talk to our spouses or our other halves. It doesn't matter who you're with. We always talk about in the corporate world about effective communication, but we don't practice in every aspect of our life. We don't express ourselves. You know, everything's got to be a fight. Well, it doesn't have to be a fight. We have lost an art called meaningful conversations. Meaningful conversations are what used to happen with people. We used to see that people could have a disagreement and sit down and talk about it. Nowadays, with everything that's going on, I mean, I had a woman today love her to death. I just had to just let her go with her thought. Her thought was that all men should be emasculated. Okay, why? Tried to have this conversation. Didn't work out too good, but that's all right. Well, they're very toxic. Okay, you don't think that your attitude towards that's toxic? Well, no. Okay, well, we can agree to disagree. It comes down to a mindset, gentlemen. If you're willing to sit down and spend just 15 minutes a day, it becomes more throughout the day as you practice it. If you can spend at least 15 minutes a day communing with your higher self, with your subconscious, as Fluffy had put it, which is part of that, and start trying to understand the lessons that are coming through and reconcile those things, you become what is called your true self. Becoming your true self is not a toxic person. It is a person connected to deity. Deity is both masculine and feminine. When we connect both those sides, we find a perfect balance. I come from a Celtic heritage. My ancestors way, way back written in the books. You can't find on Google now, but if you get your hands on the books, our men were very passionate, romantic, very empowered. The women were equal to us. They could share land. They could share wealth. They anything. What happened is that society crept in. The monarchies, the patriarchy, all that swept in. and started separating us. And in essence, separating ourselves. It is fine to have a masculine, strong side, but if you don't balance it with that other side, it's very much like the yin and yang. You throw all your energy off. One of the greatest gurus I met many moons ago had a perfect attitude towards everything. I had to take him a lifetime to do it. People come in and insult him, and he could look at them and go, very good. It just didn't matter. And that, gentlemen, is true power. That in and of itself demonstrates that connecting with both sides of ourselves, the higher being with feminine, masculine, putting ourselves back together, what society is tore apart, will make us a more complete being. It takes practice, and it's not something that's permanent. It's something you have to work on a daily basis. We are an ever-evolving creature.
You said something really important twice, and I don't think it can be said enough times, is take the time to get started. Even if it's 15 minutes a day, taking that first step and starting that conversation, even if you don't know where it's going to go, you've made a super important point. And a lot of us are afraid because we want to jump to the end. We want it to be this wonderful conversation and everything's really deep. It's okay to stumble at first, get started communicating. And we're used to doing it in work, in whatever metaphor you want to use for battlefields. But I think that getting started is probably a question that a lot of people have, is what's getting started? What's the icebreaker question?
Great. And I think that the thing is if you don't do nothing but, let's say you come home from work. Let's take a good example. You come home from work and if you do nothing but go into a quiet room and sit down in a chair and just close your eyes for just that 15 minutes, it's a start. It's small, tiny habits. There's a great book out there called Tiny Habits that I have read, and I have it, that really emphasizes just little things you can do to change your life. Now, granted, this is meant mainly for everyday life, but we are everyday life. And those things can tie into our spiritual life as well. Developing tiny habits. I have an altar here in the house. Well, we have several, but it doesn't take but just a couple of minutes to go by and offer thanks, offer a blessing. You know, when people talk to me about, oh, I'm having a hard time, hey, I'll light a candle for you. And I mean it. Chime candles are what, 25 cents? Come on. Tiny little things. We don't do those more tiny little offerings outside. And this again ties it right to the spirit. If we're able to do it for ourselves, then we're able to, once we get ourselves going, we can reach out to the community and do more to help spread that. We are made of 1,000 loves, of 1,000 lifetimes. And of that very thing, we should continue that process always. First ourselves, then our loved ones, then the community. You know, it doesn't take that much to really do that. Just 15 minutes a day, go sit in a chair, pretty soon you're communing. Reach out. If you don't do nothing but utter the words, deity, talk to me, you might be surprised. In fact, I can guarantee you'll be surprised on every level. Now, I want to hear some feedback from some of the rest of you. I've heard Lawrence talk a little bit about it. Let's just get some feedback on some of you guys. What, in your daily workings, what are some of the things you might try, or some of the things that you want to try? Anybody?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Okay, so we're talking about the daily work that we're doing, Fluffy, and what are some things that you would like to try that work? Maybe it's some things that already work for you, but in your inner workings every day, what are some things that maybe you do or want to do talk to us about those. So let's see where we can get with that.
Well, okay. I haven't gone into it much for the green tent because I'm trying to not freak people out, but what the heck? I recently lost my the bottom half of my right leg, diabetes and work-related accidents. And neuropathy really does suck and it will mess you up. But I managed to completely bypass all the negativity by realizing that experiences are attached to emotions. And you can change your perspective on what happens to you on a daily basis if you choose how you react. So every time I started thinking about bad things that were happening to my foot, how it was going to be messing me up, and realistically, yeah, I am messed up. It's changed my life. It is changing my life. But I would make a joke about it. I would think about how much fun I could have doing something different, like going to the Renaissance Fair dressed up as a pirate with a bloody leg, with a stuffed animal with a shark hanging from it. Things like that. So your daily life, you choose how you react. And you either go to a bad place or you could go to a good place. If you do it often enough, your brain winds up going into a particular, operates on a different part of the brain where it's a different set of endorphins and neurons. So you stay on the positive side rather than the negative side, and you operate from that place moving forward. So naturally, when you're in that location, when something negative happens, your gut reaction is to operate from that space in your brain that is programmed to be the most active. So for me, I'm currently in a place of operating from gratitude and of humor and joy and excitement. So when my toxic family comes up, I'm happy to hear from them. The last thing that comes into my mind is, oh no, they suck. They're part of one of the toxic reasons why I lost my lower limb. That doesn't happen anymore because I chose to change my programming. And it's the scariest thing you could do because you go from one frame of mind to another and you don't know how you're going to react. It's a different set of endorphins. It's a different set of physiological reactions. And you're scared because it's going to take you somewhere completely different. And angry and toxic people don't want to be happy because their baseline normal is to be unhappy and toxic. So in order for them to feel normal, they have to stay toxic.
Agreed. And they have to find external sources of justification for everything they do.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes to the science that relates to it. Simply changing your mind is not an easy task. Nothing in life is easy, gentlemen. Nothing in life. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing in life. Anybody that expects that life owes them something, I taught my children, life owes you nothing. You have to get out and work for it. Everything you have, everything you own, you get a freebie every now and then. But every one of the men that you sitting here have gone through something. Lawrence is a good friend and he's been through a lot in his life. He's even taught some men classes. He's one of the ones that encouraged me to continue this. But the experiences each and every one has is important. It's like Fluffy was just saying with the things he's been through. Do not think that you can't put people in a box. Just does not work. Each of us are a unique individual. Each of us has divine feminine, divine masculinity. And when we grasp all that, we bring something to the table. That is the key element of the Spin Screen Tent. Everybody is equal. Everybody brings something to the table that is so relevant. In a past year, I probably learned just as much from these other guys as, if not more, than what I've ever been able to share with them. That is the gratification of doing this kind of work, of doing this spiritual work with everybody. When we connect this spiritual side back with our physical and it interacts with this world, this mundane world that we have to live in, it becomes a lot easier to bear. If you think that life's going to get easier, buckle up, buttercup. It's not. It's not, I can tell you. The only way it gets any better is that you have to work on you. From there, using just the 15 minutes a day and building from there and improving on yourself, you can reach out to others. I mean, let's talk about some of the guys here. You know, I know some of these guys are here with me right now, and they reach out every day in little ways. And it doesn't seem like much, but the tiniest little things. I mean, have you ever wrote your spouse a little love note and put their lunch? Ever done little tiny little things like that? It just made their day. Because we don't live in the past. We can't live in the future. We can only live for today. And I know it seems like I'm preaching here, but I'm just sharing my life experiences with you. When you dwell on the past, you get nowhere. When you dwell on the future, well, you don't know what tomorrow brings. But what we do know is what's happening right here, right now, and what's happening within us. And the great thing I love about Fluffy, he went through a traumatic experience. I'm sure it's not the first of many, but he turned it around and made it a positive to work within his life. And from there, you'll see in years to come that it'll reach out to others. Every single person here has value. We are of the goddess and God walk within us. They're in us. Unlike a lot of book religions, and I don't want to disparage them, where they have to pray to external force, that force is inside of us. When you connect with that force inside yourself, the power that comes out will astound you in ways you cannot even begin to imagine. But do I have any questions so far? Anything on the YouTube channel, guys? I'm not even looking at the YouTube channel. I probably should be.
I'll go take a look. Brendan, did you want to? I know you're having trouble with the audio. Did you want to type something in?
Now, of course, the guys who have been here for the men's green tent, Fluffy and Lawrence, have heard me talk about this before about the inner work. But it's just something that needs to be repeated continually. Because, gentlemen, if you don't do this every day, you cannot get where you need to be. It's not a matter of where you want to be as much as it is where you need to be.
I do have something. As a tarot reader and someone that helps people deal with their issues, one of the things I tell them when they don't have the support system they need to actually talk it out is to talk to their pet. Their pet doesn't have the capacity to judge. They just reflect nothing but unconditional love and acceptance. And they don't really care what it is that you've said or done. They're entirely in the moment and they're genuine. So spend time with your pet, love them, be honest, and you will find yourself reflected back to you from them.
Very good. That's a good starting point. Eventually, what you'll find is sooner or later, if you put that energy out there, and when I'm talking about energies, when you're doing the inner work, especially, I mean, some of the other guys can test this. Brendan, you were talking about finding other people. When we're doing the work, it shows. And a lot of people say, well, you know, how can you tell? If you've done the work, you can tell someone has done the work as well, and it will show. And there's no right or wrong answer to this because the fact is unique to each and every one of us. You can have the biggest pagan priest come to you and say, you have to do it this way. No. They may have some good guidelines, but they can't tell you a specific way to do it. The meditation, the workings within, doing your, I mean, a lot of people give me a hard time about this. I say I do prayers every morning. I do, because prayers are not specific to any religion. And it doesn't take me, but just when I first wake up, 10 minutes later in the bed, praying for a good day, praying for my friends, praying for everybody I care about, and other people that I don't even know. That is energy work. Energy work comes in every way. We leave a trace of energy every which way we go. Everywhere we go, any place you go. If you go put your handprint on a wall, and some of you probably know this, You put your hand on a wall and then pull it away and look at it with a thermal camera. There's an imprint there. It doesn't go away, honestly. It may fade, but it's still there. And it will be there for a time. You ever walked into a house and felt the energy in it? Good example there, right? We choose the energy that we receive and we give. Okay? A lot of people through life will give you negative energy. How you deal with that, as Fluffy said, and I agree, is how you turn that energy around. Energy is neither created or destroyed. It's simply changed from moment to moment. Science has proven this. Everything that I'm saying can be proved by science. Look at psychology. They're just now, we think science and government, all this stuff is perfect, but every day they're discovering something new. I mean, there was not long ago an article on a human remains found that were well over 160,000 years old, still in good condition. So for all our science and everything, do we really have all the answers? No. Do I have all the answers? Does Lawrence have all the answers? No, none of us have the answers. Together as a collective, we can find answers. We can work on ourselves and each other to help. Hence the reason for this tent. And for any of those that think, well, this is, whatever you want to say, this is appropriation, whatever. Let me tell you something. This tent was not only helped started, but it also heavily supported by the women. I have many women high priestesses that support this tent. I have great people like Lawrence and others that give me guidance in what I'm doing. I can go to them anytime, day or anytime, any hour, and have a question. And this board of people, these people can help me work on stuff, because when they give that to me, let me tell you what they're doing. I'm asking a question for the tent, but I'm also working on something in me that hits me. And in doing so, I'm helping myself. Seems a little selfish, but sometimes, gentlemen, we got to be just a bit selfish to help ourselves. And from there, we go out into the community and continue to do this. Each and every one of you has the ability to be a leader in your community. Each and every one of you. And I see it every day with my friends that I have around here, including 2 or 3 of them here in this room. They are community leaders. They're making, however crazy you may think it may be, whatever they're doing, they're making a difference in your life, whether they're making you laugh, whether they're teaching you something. It just takes those tiny little things, and they're making a difference in a cruel world that is turned completely upside down by a pandemic. We are making a difference. And if you look for it, you'll find it. Now, as Fluffy said, I agree with the whole mind thing. You can look at things one of 2 ways. You can look at them through the worst possible way. You can look at it the most positive way. It's just a matter of that mind concept. If you challenge yourself to do something, you can do it. Case in point, I am 54 years old. I played some instruments back in my earlier years. Recently, since I'm now disabled and retired, I decided to pick up guitar. Never played a guitar in my life. My brother did, tried to get me to, could. I took it upon myself to start learning guitar. I played, well, part of it, part of my first song this past week. I didn't think it was that great, but everybody applauded. And it's that kind of support you want. It's the kind of support we offer here and throughout the pagan community. The pagan community can be very supportive when it wants to be. But we have to change that. We have to work hand in hand with our counterparts. We have to change ourselves, then work with them, and start making a difference towards the world we want. Okay? The world is constantly changing. Right now, it's an uproar over several things, but only we can change that. Would you agree with that, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Only we can change that. And that starts with you. Now, many years ago, I went through a traumatic experience. I'm ex-military. I went through, and if you know anything about vets who've had PTSD and other things going on, it can really confound your life. Doesn't matter what you do, it just seems like nothing's going right. And I had a counselor basically tell me, and this is so funny because I've been a pagan most of my life, but I had a counselor who was Christian, and she looked at me and she said, well, you got two choices here. You can take action or you can take a back seat. Excuse me? I can do what? No, I'm too driven to take a back seat. Well, that's exactly what you're doing. Good counsel comes in strange places, guys. Many blessings come from strange places. It's just the way life works. If you talk to Oberon or anyone else, any of the elders in our community, they'll tell you, well, you know, has changed, but you'll never really hear them say anything negative. Why is that? Because they have changed their mindset. They have done those little things. Do you think they just quit? Oh, I've made high priests, I've quit now? No. If you really knew much about most of them, and you could go in about any one of these guys' place, they have an altar somewhere, they have a place of quiet, they have their time to themselves. And these are the tiny little habits of the inner workings that we're supposed to be doing. You know, these are things we should be doing. Any questions so far?
I do have a question. No matter how much shadow work we do, powers that be decide to throw us situations that are uniquely tailored us to challenge us, to make us feel small and disempowered, just so we have a space to grow again and grow in a different way. How do you propose we rally when we're so disempowered with so much adversity?
Well, that's the great thing, Fluffy. When you're down and out, there's somebody beside you there close by that is going to be there to bring you back up. You can't carry all the weight all the time. You're not meant to. It takes a community to raise a child, right? You've heard that? It's the same concept. When you're not able to fulfill it, when you're not, and this doesn't make you a failure, it makes you human. That is the thing people have forgotten. We're all human. We're of the human race. There is no other one. We all bleed the same. We all live and die the same. But what makes us unique is those experiences. And if you're having a bad day and I can lift you up by doing a kind word or maybe sending you a little gift, does it sound familiar, Fluffy? Sending little gifts and saying kind words? Exactly. It doesn't take much. A little thing here and there, you will build it. Over time, you will find out my meditations all throughout the day. My working is, you know, I go through a lot during the day, but if I just take a few minutes and stop somewhere doing something, I only have to close my eyes. It's those things that cause the inner work. I'm reconnecting with what's inside. I'm reconnecting what's in the universe. We are but a small star within the universe, but we are just as significant as the bigger ones. Those very things connect us. Those very things can empower us. This world, if you don't realize, this world is billions of years old, but it's only one part of a mass universe. We have the ability to do many things if we'll just open up to it. You know, I mean, it's a spiritual walk that each of us has. Now, we talk a lot of times about, well, you're on your own path and everything. Well, it all seems like all those paths seem to go to the same place. Now, while my path is different to you, hey, buddy, we're still going the same way. Why can't we walk together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're having a down day, that doesn't make you a failure. What it does is just says, hey, I'm not ready for this quite yet. I'm not there. But there's going to be somebody there that can.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. But again, like you said, Fluffy, it's that mindset. You've already gotten the initial key. You're just waiting to get the rest of the keys to the rest of the doors. And you will get there in your own time. Does it make you any more or less than anybody else? There is no such thing. We're all equal humans. I mean, unless you're just the most evil thing in the world, which I doubt. Highly doubt. Everyone of us walks that same path in some way. You know, whether it's physical trauma, emotional trauma, whatever. My point is this: you have to reconnect to your spiritual side to deal with that trauma, as you said, because we let too much the outside world, the mundane world, leach out what is us, the essence of who we are. When we do that, we lessen ourselves. We get, well, for lack of a better word, as it said this morning, we get emasculated, which shouldn't happen. People can only do things to you when you allow them to. Will you willingly give over that power to them? Why would you do that? It doesn't mean you have to be ugly. As one guy in one of my groups says, play guitar and just be nice. Well, makes sense. Be supportive. You don't have to be a butt to anybody. And if somebody wants to be that way, well, then, you know, let them. I mean, now, I don't agree with the physical harming of people, but if somebody just being verbally, you can turn that little switch off like my grandfather used to do with his hearing aid. I don't hear you, Grandma. You know, my grandfather was infamous for that. Grandma getting nagging me, turned his hearing aid off. You know, and it's sort of in that aspect, we can do that in life too. Sometimes we can just choose to ignore people that can't be changed. They cannot get out of the box they're in. My hope is that all of you pagan men don't live in that box. We have our free world out here. We have the ability to change things, but we have to get out of that mindset. We have to start connecting with spirit and completing all portions of ourselves: spirit, mind, and body. I mean, Fluffy, you're talking about you being disabled. Well, you'll find out there's exercises you can do. I have a neuropathy in my back and my leg, and I still go out and try to walk a little bit. And you do what you can. That's all you can do. But then you come across a brother who says, hey, here, I'll help you. Next thing you know, you're taking a full walk. Okay, I need to sit down. Brother will sit you down. The spirit of communication and the spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever, humanhood is what I like to call it. We all can connect back to what we're supposed to be. As I was saying earlier, before the Iron Age is very critical to the shaping and changing of our culture, because we still have the pagan community and we have the Christian community. Now today we have the neo-pagans. Nothing wrong with that. But you still have to look at humanity as a whole and how it's shaped over thousands of years. If you go back for the Iron Age times, and the books are hard to find sometimes, you will see that a lot of people like my Celtic men had a lot of attributes that were very noble. It's, I guess, for lack of a better word. I mean, if any of you have a better word, please share it. But I believe we can have that again. I mean, I look at our community and a lot of the women and men really share responsibility. The roles switch up. We don't really have a problem with each other. But with today's society, when the mundane leaks in, it takes something away that we need to pull back to us. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't any of you agree? We cannot let external forces determine our purpose. We cannot let them deter us from what's inner knowing.
That's well said. If as you go back and you look at first cities and things that came out of Sumeria, the Celtic, provinces, Norse, there was a much bigger division of, let's call it, labor and the day to day. And I think some of that has gotten has gone astray for whatever reason, and we don't need to go there. But what we can do is make conscious decisions, like you said, to have that level of equality with each other, share our feelings, share our thoughts, share a lot more. And maybe that's, if you boil it down to one word, it's about sharing, and living that whole life and not letting the mundane creep in. Because you're right, it is easy to say, oh, I'm so tired, I'm just going to go back and do it the old way. And
Mhm.
I think the way I grew up with, but it's not the way that we all started.
Mhm. And honestly, a lot of people say that right and wrong are taught. Um, I have children too, they're grown now too, but I think we're all born with a certain innate sense of right and wrong and what seems to be right. Now, granted, toddlers are a little bit selfish little rascals. They are. I'm a grandfather, I know. But all in all, they want to do good. We are shaped either by the internal or the external. There's nothing wrong with the external in most places. There's nothing wrong with, but you have to be fair about it and equal. Is our world and our lives equal in all aspects? No, it will never be. There's no way you can expect that. That's the problem I have with some people these days, and it has nothing to do with generational. Just people expect everything to be fair to them. My fairness may not be compared to your fairness. So that's why we have to have these communals. This is why we have to commune with spirit. We have to commune with each other. Do you realize that when I commune with you, let's say, Fluffy, I commune with you a lot, I give you a hard time, but you and I go back and forth. Do you realize that's a way of sharing energy? You realize that's a way of helping each other? For we both share the same deity. It doesn't matter what form it comes in. It come into Odin to me, the All-Father. It could come to you in whatever the form you want. The biggest urge I have is people that say, well, there's only one deity. Well, yeah, but it comes in many forms. And whatever form you see is fine with me. I have no problem with that. But it expounds within all of us. We are not meant to be kept down. We are meant to work on ourselves daily and start sharing experiences. I really don't. A lot of men have this aspect of thinking that men do this, women do this. No, not always. I can wash a load of clothes as well as my wife can. I can cook a meal if I need to. I can do about anything. I probably should do more, but that's my fallacy. Do we have any other questions so far? Anything? Brennan, you not said you're more than welcome to type a question in here. Anything? You can ask me anything. I don't get offended. Offense to me is a problem with me, not with the person who said something. That's the way I view it. So anything you can ask me, why are you such a jackass? I wouldn't care. I'd be like, well, it's just me. I got to work on that a little bit better. But gentlemen, those tiny little habits every day, as Lawrence and I and Fluffy and all was shared, take 5 minutes. If you feel like you just can't squeeze out 15, take 5 minutes today. Find a quiet place and commune within yourself. Take a deep breath, let everything go. Just clear your mind and close your eyes and take a few minutes for yourself. You can't take care of other things if you can't take care of yourself. Let me read that one more time. You can't take care of things on the external at all if you don't take care of the things on the internal. You have to take some time for yourself. Men do not these days. I'm sorry. I see too many out there with the big trucks running around, doing whatever and living the way they think they're supposed to live. And then in just the past year alone, this is going to sound you guys if you haven't been watching. I watched some of these statistics from medical schools and universities. Suicides have risen for men in the past few years since the pandemic, 21.1%. That is 3.69 times as much as women. What is going on that are men, they're losing sight of what they are. All these older systems, all this way of living is not working for them. They forgot the most important part of their life, which is the theme of this tent. They forgot to connect everything together and find out what works. It's very much like having your car. If you take the back axle out of the car, are you going anywhere? Well, you might, but you won't get there far for very long. Okay, streaming is behind with us. That's normal. That's normal, Brandon. These streams are always, it's still a fallacy of the internet. We don't have perfect connections. So in everything that we are doing, the Men's Green Tent tries to take one day out of every month. And we try to get together and talk about things that matter to us. And even the guys, like some of them that are here, sometimes we'll go an hour, sometimes 3 hours later, we're still talking and people are going, wow. But it's important to have that because we're helping each other grow. Okay. It's helping us become, and it's not, it's helping us grow in some way, and it's not limited to our plumbing. I have said this many, many times. The focus of my tent is if you identify as male, please come, because I know several, I don't know why they don't come. Maybe it's a fear thing. Hopefully they'll work on that. Many identify as male that are not physically male, but they have the same problems they have. And they're like, why do you have these problems? It's normally associated with our society. And in some form or another, it's related. You know, do I have all the answers? No. But they come to me as a leader and say, do you have that? No, I don't have the answer. Can I find your answer? Yeah. Come with me. We will find the answer. Somebody out there will have that answer, people. One of you will have that answer. That is the idea behind this. I can lead you, but I'm only as good a leader as people going with me. Is there any more questions out there? Do we have anything on the YouTube channel at all?
No, we've got a few people watching, but no questions right now. It's
This will
hard.
catch on.
It's really hard for men to ask the questions.
It is.
And the work you've done over the last year allows, it's going to take time. And the more of these meetings we have, the more it'll be easier for men to open, because guys don't want to show up. That's wrong for me for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, you can't reverse overnight hundreds and thousands of years of programming, but it will come. I told Lawrence when we first started, so I said, I don't care if there's but one person in here. I will do the green tent. And now the summer I took off because I had some health issues and had some other things to take care of. That's fine. And everybody was busy. But regardless, if somebody calls me up and says, I need to talk, you can talk. And I have no problem putting my email address or phone number out there for people. All right, Jim, any other questions before we call this today? Because I need to go ahead and let's move on for the next people to come in and get on their workshops. Any other questions? Let's look. Don't see anything. Okay, gentlemen, we have Lawrence shared the Facebook link with you in there. If y'all want to share it out, you're more than welcome.
Please.
And we also have a website that will be coming soon, mensgreentent.org. I'll try to get that up and running soon to where we can start sharing more. And that means everybody. You'll be able to post some things on articles, stuff that you find interesting. There is no right or wrong answers. We learn together. Okay, gentlemen? I want to thank you for having me. If you have me, just reach out anytime you need something. Reverend Chad, CNT@gmail.com.
Chad, thank you so much. Blessings. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.